Hey, Chris. Welcome, everybody. It is time for a web-worthy stream, or worthy web, sorry, worthy web stream.
Worthy
I'm at
Web.
Charbeneau, and I'm here with Chris DeMars. How you doing, Chris?
Doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Chris is my go-to accessibility HTML expert and all things CSS. Whenever I need help, I go to Chris. Chris, you're a developer advocate over at Quicken Loans, right?
This is correct. Yeah, Rocket Mortgage, or better known as Quicken Loans. Same thing. Yes.
How are things going over there? Everything
Good.
well?
Good. I love it. I love, but I love community and mentoring and all that stuff. So, and my team's great. So
Yeah,
I
you
love being a part of it.
got some fantastic folks over there, like Mr. Chris Woody Woodruff
Yep.
is part of your team. Really good
Yep.
guy.
Yep. Woody's my lead. Ted Neward, the dude, is his lead. I got Cassandra Ferris on my team,
Wow.
Alyssa Witzleben, Jason Bach. We got a really good team over there.
Yeah,
And then
it
the tech
sounds
the
like
tech
it.
culture team that we're also under has an amazing lineup of people as well. Lily Vasquez and uh, Brian Caldwell, just a handful of people over there.
Very nice. So today we're going to talk about semantic HTML. We're doing the show as part of our Worthy Web um, hackathon series that we're doing here. Gonna quick Hall of Mirrors. Let me get this out of the way. So we've got our the Worthy Web app challenge that we're running
Ooh,
through May 24th, and this is a like kind of all tools for progress DevCraft hackathon where we have several amazing tools that you can get a hold of, use those to build an app, and the theme is to do something that would benefit the world and make it a better place.
I
So
dig it.
this is yeah, it's for a good cause, but there's also some personal investment as well. If you want to get in there and win some prizes, we have lots of prizes happening. So for each one of our tools, we've got different UI component suites, testing, reporting, all of that type of stuff. And then we have some other categories like app modernization and that sort of thing. So get in there, win some prizes. We'll be judging those things at the end of the month here, near the end of May. So you have plenty of time, 41 days left. So if you haven't joined already, it's not like it's too late or anything. You've got 40 plus days to get in there, join the hackathon. We have over 100 participants already, so it should be a lot of fun. I'll pop the link in chat for everybody here, and we'll get on with our topic today that we thought would be super handy for those entering the hackathon and then some. We want to talk about accessibility. We want these apps to be accessible, Chris.
Yes.
So this is something that I always can learn more about. But whenever I'm writing HTML, I try to use the right types of semantic tags and stuff. So if you don't mind, give us a quick kind of rundown of what it is the semantic HTML can help with, and what some of the accessibility like aspects of this stuff are.
Yeah. So, when I started years and years and years ago, there was no like HTML5 wasn't a thing. It was I think I was learning HTML 4.0.1, and that was before like the days of like really intense JavaScript, before the days of before CSS became an official spec. So we did everything inside the markup. All of the colors were inside the markup, and the centering and the positioning and table based layouts, and a lot of that stuff was not semantic. With the advent of HTML5 and the newer HTML elements that have come across the board, now that stuff is accessible by default, right? So you're not just cluttering up your layout with a bunch of divs everywhere, because a div just stands for division, a divider, right? There's no semantic meaning behind a div. But if you can remove a div and replace it with like a section or an aside or your navigation, now you're opening up the web to be a lot more accessible, especially with screen readers, than it used to be, back in the day when I started.
Yeah, they added a bunch of HTML elements in HTML5
Hmm.
specifically to help with this. And
Yep.
I remember the before. Like,
Hmm.
I remember using like HTML tables like that are meant for data, but there was really no other way to like lay out a page. I'm really dating myself here,
Yeah.
but you'd use tables to kind of lay out a page, and then divs came along, and everybody started using divs for everything.
Yep.
And that's also a shift in the wrong direction. So the right pivot is to go with a lot of these semantic elements that the screen reader recognizes as meaningful containers for things that have specific types.
Yep.
So I kind of wanted. I'm a very visual person. I always need something to kind of reference visually when I'm talking about stuff like this. So I wanted to kind of pull up my Visual Studio Code instance here, and if I can remember how to, I think it's Control Plus. There we go.
Yep.
Zoom in a little bit to make this nice and visible on the stream. If I'm writing my HTML, so I've got just like a basic HTML5 page here, and I'm gonna put some type of content on my screen. What I don't want to do is just start off with first of all, you need to get the right language. I don't want to have divitis, right? And
No.
just be like putting divs within divs within divs. And I
Correct.
think this is a really easy bad habit to get into. So I think you mentioned a few things. If I was gonna start with some content that I was gonna put on my page, there's other things I can use besides a div.
Yep. Yeah, if you wanted to, you could start. Yeah, you could do a section, or if let's say you wanted to go top down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could start out with a header, since most experiences out there have some type of header, and within that header you have a logo and a nav, so you could always go that route.
So header, is that reserved for just the top body portion of the page, or can I have a header within, say, a section?
You could probably do a header within a section, but
And then
if we were doing that, I would stick to heading level elements like H1, H2, H3, etc.
Mhm. And can a header have those things in it?
Mm-hmm. Sure can.
So header can contain H1s. If I'm going to have a section, um, I might just want to use a regular, H2 in here.
Mm-hmm.
That's another kind of thing that always confuses me, and I'm sure it catches other people too. How should I order these H tags? So should I have more than one H1 on my page? If I do, what's the right way to use those type of things?
So I've seen two different schools of thought out there. One being that one H1 per page, no questions asked. But I've also
Mhm.
seen where, depending on the different section of if it's a different section of the page, you can use another H1. I try to just stick with one H1 per page, and then hierarchically, how do you say that? Hierarchically? Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Following a hierarchy, use H1 and then H2, H3, H4, H5, all the way to H6 if need be.
yeah. So you'd want to do something like this, where you have H1, H2, H3. Now, in my opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Like if you have, these might be topical, so you might have more than one H2 as long as there's,
You can, yeah, that's fine.
as long as there's content between,
Mm-hmm.
which I just fudged here. I need another paragraph in here, something like that, where each topic has a section. But what you don't want to do is go back all the way up to H1. That should be like the main title of the article, the page, whatever it is. That's the main meaning. Another thing that you don't want to do is take these H tags and like just spam H tags and style them differently.
Whew. Yeah, one thing I don't like to do, and some people do like doing it, but I don't like doing it. Let's say you have an H2 and you create a class of H2 and throw it on there. It's like, don't,
Okay.
please don't do that. And don't, like, I'm totally against styling elements in the CSS, like
Yeah.
creating your H2. I don't like that. or doing like the element H2 and then styling it. Like there's semantics behind H1 to H6. And if you're going to override those, make sure that you're creating a class that describes why you're overriding those. You know what I mean? I kind of call it developer semantics, like making sure that, you have built-in semantics in the web and through the elements that you're using, but also being mindful as a developer what that is doing. Because I've seen a lot of times where like you'll have an H2 and it'll have a class of H2, but then other parts of the H2, like another H2 might be completely different. So now you're throwing the semantics off a little bit by naming your class in H2. You know what I mean? Yeah. It can get confusing.
I think this is one I've seen a lot that you probably don't want to do. Like you have like a bold class and they just like slap an H2 style on it instead of just using a proper H2 where it belongs.
Well, first things first, you shouldn't be using a bold class anyways.
Okay. Should we use strong?
You could use strong, yeah. And the reason I say that is because bold was deprecated a long, long time ago with blink and marquee and italics. Like we used to, if we wanted to have something that was italicized, you'd wrap it in an I tag or you'd wrap it in a B tag for bold. But nowadays, those, you could probably still use them, but they're deprecated. Marquee still works, believe it or not. You can still use that. And
we got some fantastic people joining us here in chat, by the way. We've got Dan Siegel's here. Alyssa Nicoll is with us, and Layla codes it. Hello, Layla.
I think we have Deanna in the chat. She's on the tech culture team.
Very nice. Very nice. She was agreeing with you, by the way. Great team there.
Yep.
Dan uses Marquee.
So do I.
On his website.
It's all I used to use was Marquee and Blink and animated GIFs. That's when the web was fun.
Flash. We need to have some Flash on our site. That's what we absolutely, positively need.
Definitely.
We've got some other questions here that I have that come to mind. So, if we're gonna lay out a page, maybe with we've always got that classic like Pinterest cards and all of that. A lot of folks again reach for that div. Should those cards and things be within some sort of list container?
Yep. What I would do is I would have everything in a main container, especially if you're doing it between a header and a footer. Like the header is for header content, footer is for footer content, but the bulk of what you're doing, you're going to want to put it in a main element, right?
Okay.
And then you could have sections within that main. You could have asides within that main. What else is there? A section, a side article. You could have articles within that main. And then you could, since that masonry layout, you could say it's a list of things. You could throw that in an unordered list with list items.
TREST. I'm throwing that in there, but you want to have something like that, and then your items inside of a list. Because doesn't this give it like the screen reader a cue that these items all belong together in some sort of grouping? Yeah. And so it's going to read them as a list rather than just random, divs that are just blocking off sections of the page.
A lot of the patterns you see on the web when you use unordered lists and list items, or even ordered lists and list items, but mostly for this specific case, for unordered list is your navigation items, whether that's in a sidebar or in the header or in the footer. When you have like different sections in the footer of navigation, you see that. I mean, that's semantically how you're supposed to do that. When you have social media icons, usually you see those in like a list, either they're horizontal or vertical. Those semantically should be in an unordered list because those are list items. And there's ways of styling all this stuff where it doesn't have to look like a bolded list. You know what I mean? You can, in CSS is so powerful, and a lot of this stuff is, it's really built in from the core, where you can remove like the bullet point out of the list item, or you can with grid and flexbox, you can align the list items and give them space and margin and add different hover effects and focus for accessibility. And there's a lot of stuff you can do. Now you can even change, I think I've seen it, Kevin Powell has a video on it, where you can change the marker. It's a pseudo class, and the marker is like the bullet of the list item. And you can change that to do different things, which is really cool.
Yeah, so you were mentioning like inside the nav element for one is a valid navigation element. So this tells a screen reader that this section of the page is used for navigation, which is very important. And then you can put your menu items or your social media links in an unordered list, and then have those links in that list item.
Correct.
And with some simple CSS, let's see if we can get this page open in the browser even. That might be cool. If we could throw some quick CSS elements on here. Watch me try to navigate my way around Visual Studio Code, which I don't use often enough. Trying to get a little more used to it these days.
You'll be a convert soon enough, bro.
So so we just listed these items out, but what you're saying, and let's zoom in a little bit too. We don't have to keep these bullet points on here. We can list these things right to left, left to right, and all of that without changing them into divs and doing anything with the actual HTML itself.
Correct.
And I wouldn't normally code this way, but since we're just kind of riffing here, you're cringing already. I wasn't gonna make another file for this, but if we just throw a quick style on the page here, this would normally go in a file, but we're just kind of doing something off the cuff here. If we wanted to style these left to right, we could do something with a flex box, right?
Yeah, let's throw some flex on it.
So we need, we're on the container element. So if we said display flex, and then how do we get it to go left to right?
So to left to right, it's the flex direction by default is going to be row. I always kind of throw it on there just for, to be safe. But anytime that you're using flex, the flex direction by default is going to be row, unless you change it to column.
And if we go back and refresh this, we should, and then notice we got those bullets in there, and that's kind of ugly. So how do we get the bullets off there?
So the way we're going to do that is, let's go to, go back to the browser and pop open the DevTools. I like working this way. Pull up the styles. Go to the list item. I'm pretty sure it's the list item. So if you scroll, yep.
So if we're on the item itself.
And then do list style type equals none. Should be list style type.
List style type. And this doesn't change anything as far as the screen reader is concerned.
Correct. Yeah. It's just getting rid of that bullet.
So we could throw this in a style like that, and that's going to take those off. And then one thing I like to do here is we can say gap, and we can give it like a gap between the items in that list, so they still lay out with like right now they're kind of overriding each other here. Whoops. There we go. So now they're spaced out. So yeah, we took a regular nav that's got an unordered list in it and wrote those out kind of like a menu on the screen.
Yep. There's a question from Trent Adams. Does following semantic guidelines help with SEO as well? It does. When you follow semantics, it does help with SEO because the search engine, the crawler, is going to look for the hierarchy of your heading level elements. So if you have those in the proper spots, you're also going to pass accessibility audits as well as SEO audits. It'll just help you in the long run.
Absolutely. with these like spa applications and stuff, a lot of times you see maybe a section of the page that gets kind of updated at runtime. Is there anything that helps with, pieces that are going to change on the fly and that sort of thing?
Oh, and that's one of the big problems with spas is accessibility and single page applications. React, Vue, Angular, they all have their different quirks, and they all work and don't work with accessibility in some way. You always have to kind of put in the accessibility. But as far as updating stuff on the page, as long as the information's updated and it's rendered in the DOM, a screen reader should be able to read that, as long as you're you're focused specifically in that part of that experience.
Okay. And of course, images and those sort of things, and icons. Let's talk a little bit about those. So, if we have icons maybe attached to like these Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch menu items, do we need to have like special ARIA attributes or anything for those? Is there a difference between, say, if I have the word Facebook here and it's a link you can click on versus,
especially for this too, and it's kind of a big pattern in the accessibility space, is when you don't use the word Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or whatever that outgoing link is going to be to some type of social media, you'll use an icon, like an SVG icon or an icon from Font Awesome or any design system that you may be using that has icons built in. And Bootstrap does a good job of this, and I've seen some other frameworks that do this.
Did you just compliment
I
Bootstrap?
did. I used Bootstrap's example for this specifically. They do a good job at this, but using ARIA to have the screen reader announce to the user what that image is crucial in something like this, because if you just have an anchor tag with a list item element and then an image, it's going to read that image off to you through a screen reader. That's not it might not make any sense to you as the user, right? So you're going to want to put an ARIA label, and it always gets confusing for me. It's either going to be on the list element, the list item, or it's going to be on the
So you often see tags like these, or it's just an I tag with some class on it, and this ends up being the icon that gets rendered. And we don't have the icons installed, so I can't really show it in the browser here, but essentially this renders an icon, and then in some cases, if you don't have the word Facebook, for example, you want that to have some kind of meaning to the screen reader, other than it's just an I tag with nothing inside of it.
Right. Yep. So if you have, let's say you don't have the word Facebook in there, you just have the logo or the icon, you could either throw the ARIA label. I've seen it different ways. You can throw the ARIA label on the I, you could throw it on the anchor tag. I try to put it on the anchor tag, but you'd want the ARIA label to say Facebook or Instagram. That way the screen reader is going to read that ARIA label so it can announce to the user what that link, first off, it's a link. Second off, this is where it's going to take you, and it's going to take you to Facebook or it's going to take you to Instagram. But one thing I do want to make clear, though, first is with ARIA, the first rule of ARIA is do not use ARIA. Only use it when you have to use it for non-contextual elements like this. This is a perfect example of a non-contextual element that won't make sense to a screen reader user, but could make sense to somebody that isn't using a screen reader, right? You see this also in modals, where you have like the X up in the corner of the modal. 9 times out of 10, that X is either going to be an ampersand times semicolon, character code, or it's going to be an icon. And without having an ARIA label of close or exit on there, the screen reader user is not going to know what it is, especially if they focus to it. And the last thing you want your user to do is get caught in what we call a focus trap. So they could just be focusing and tabbing through that modal the whole time and never be able to shift focus back to the main window. And then they'll be stuck in that.
Okay.
And that's not an experience that you want to deliver to your users. But
So,
ARIA stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications as well.
so let me know if I did this right. So if we're going to use a tag with text in it, say this is an anchor tag with, the link is Facebook, we don't need an ARIA label on it. But if we have something like this icon class where there's no text inside to tell the screen reader what exactly we're meaning by clicking on that icon, we should then label it with the
Correct.
label of Facebook.
Yep.
But you don't want to do both. You want
Right.
to do one or the other. Because essentially what this would do if you did both is if I had the label on this text Facebook, the screen reader would read, the menu, and then it would say Facebook.
Right.
So it double speak things, and that would be annoying to the user that's using the screen reader. So this one, it would read the item, and it would grab the label off of it and read the label, but there's no text here for it to read, so that's good. On the flip side of this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, if the icon isn't something that adds additional meaning, then you shouldn't use the label as well. So, like if I had both the icon and the word Facebook, you don't want to add the label there because we've already labeled it essentially by
Correct.
having the name there.
Yep.
Or if the icon's just there for decoration and it doesn't give it, any real meaning.
Right.
Cool.
You are correct.
And then I think, by these days we would assume that images are being done better than they used to. Do you find that people still make mistakes with like image tags and using alt text and stuff?
I do. I call it one of those low-hanging fruits. And there's like I have a list of low-hanging fruit, and one of them is alt attributes on your images. A lot of the times it's either just because of not knowing, or the path you came down to learn, it just wasn't taught. But that's a huge thing. I believe, in my opinion, the alt attribute is the most important piece of that whole entire image element, because even with the image or without the image, that alt text is still going to be there. You know what I mean? And having something that is short and descriptive is always going to be good. Like if you have a picture of your dog and your alt text equals dog or my dog, that doesn't mean anything to anybody. It means something to you, but it doesn't mean something to the user, right? So, but if you say, my 6-month-old blue-nosed pit bull, okay, well, that's short and descriptive. I know how old the dog is, and I know what kind of breed it is, instead of just saying my dog.
Right. You want to give it. You want to describe the photo the best you can.
Yep.
Without being overly verbose, obviously,
Right.
but give a short, meaningful description of what's in that photo, rather than. I mean, it's kind of like documenting code. Like we see this a lot. You can think of it in the same way. Like you might have like a class, and then it has a property on it called like name, and then you'll see a comment that's like the name, and it's like, yeah, we get that. Like we don't need you to document that this is the name property. It says name. Like we get
Right.
it. Like tell us things we don't know. Describe to me, what type of meaning it has within the context. This is good stuff so far, Chris. What other type of rules should we be following to make sure that we're following?
Let's see here.
Best practices.
Semantic markup for one is, level A. Like that, you should be doing that automatically. We have the alt attributes. We have the ARIA labels when we need them. You can put landmarks and roles on your applications, and usually you would need a landmark.
What is a landmark?
So it kind of tells you. It kind of describes where in the page this is at. So like
Mm-hmm.
a role of main. See, there's also different schools of thought behind this as well. Let me look it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we have main, I don't know if adding role main's going to help so much.
Right.
Here's one that I can think of off the top of my head. Say we have some items in a list like this. We have some cards or something, and these things have gained some sort of interaction. Should I be doing something like this, where I just say on click, and then there's some event here? Or should I be using a button instead of just throwing click events on random elements?
So for this one, buttons and anchor tags completely separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
The semantic use of a button is to invoke an action, right? So hitting a button and something happens, non-navigation, right? So anytime that you're using a button like a submit button on forms,
Mm-hmm.
opening up a modal, you should always be using a button. Anytime that you're navigating away from the page, you should be using an anchor tag, an anchor element. As far as the roles go, going back to the roles, if you weren't using main as your semantic markup, you'd want to throw a landmark role on there, which would be the role of main. That way, it's pretty much saying like, hey, this is the main content. This is where it starts.
Okay, so if we're going to navigate, then we use anchor. If we're not going to navigate, we're doing some sort of action.
Yep.
We want to have a button. So depends on what this event of clicking on this friendly pit bull might be. So if we were going to just navigate to another page that has details about the pit bull, then we might want to handle this in one way versus selecting the item or something like that.
Correct.
So can we wrap this in a button, or should we add? Are there any things we can add to this to, like, is role button a valid thing? No.
I believe.
I'm trying to remember the
Yeah,
correct way
I
to
think.
do this. There's additional types we probably want to add if we're going to make something clickable.
Yeah. You could use role equals button, but you'd also going to want to have some ARIA labels attached to that as well, like pressed or expanded, so that the screen reader knows whether or not you clicked on it, etc.
So, like by default, like buttons probably going to give us a lot of things out of the gate. But if we need to use another element, we should properly like decorate it with all of the things that apply to that action.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Like if, for example, if this is, we're selecting a card, like, and it's going to change the class to like active or something. This style isn't necessarily going to change the semantic meaning of this item, but is it ARIA again?
Yeah.
That
There's ARIA pressed, ARIA expanded.
Mm-hmm. So whatever the context is with this element. So if we're
correct, yep,
we're going to highlight it with like a blue border or something, the user can't see that blue border if they're using a screen reader. So we want to make sure we tell them it's selected. If it's something that we're like a radio button, we want to use the depressed value or something like that. Or
yep. You want to let the user know. You want to give the user that feedback right away. So you want to let them know if they're interacting with it. Okay, the state of this has changed, and that's because if like you said, if you can't see that it changed, you need to be able to hear that it changed, and that's kind of where the ARIA comes into play. And a lot of ARIA you'll use with JavaScript too, so you can toggle certain things like expanded and unexpanded, and toggle true or false. So a lot of ARIA you kind of interweave that with JavaScript as well.
Yeah. And that's again, if you're not using something that's already semantic out of the box. So there are like radio buttons I mentioned, for example, buttons, radio buttons, input elements and things already have a lot of those functionalities built
Correct.
in. So you don't want to overdo it with the ARIA stuff and apply those to things that already have semantic meanings. But if you're using, the dividus situation, you want to add those decorations to it to give it that meaning that the semantics aren't there for already.
Yep.
So
Another, I think it's a big part of the web, and it's one of the biggest low-hanging fruits, I guess you could say, is contrast. If you want to talk a little bit about color contrast.
Yeah,
I could show a sweet tool that we use to work on color contrast in the dev tools. I actually wrote an article about it through the Rocket Mortgage Technology blog.
Shoot me a link to that blog. We'll pull it up here. Take a look at it.
I will. Let me pull it up here real quick.
Yeah. The contrasting color stuff is really actually very difficult because you want to be creative and like for example we have a branding site that has some of our colors on it, and our designers have come up with our color schemes and stuff to make sure that they're readable in they have their contrasting colors, and you can see like they're split here between like the dark text and the light text, because once you hit a certain threshold, those things need to be swapped because the white text on the lighter colors just wouldn't be visible. But not everybody has that to go off of.
Right.
It looks like Sarah's got your link there. Let me see if I can figure out how to pull that out of chat, though. I don't know if I can grab it from chat here.
You want me to DM it to you?
Yes, please. Oh, somebody already did. Oh, you did. Okay, cool. There we go. Yeah, so you wrote this article on DevTools.
Yep.
So what do I do to get into these tools for Chrome?
This is going to be fun. I love showing this tool off. So first off, let's go back into the CSS.
Mm-hmm.
And let's set a back, let's use the progress colors. Let's just test it out and have some fun.
Uh-oh. You're going to get
I was right, buddy. Let's use the progress colors.
Let's see here.
Let's set the background to one of those greens.
Okay. So we'll set the background to green. And what should we use for the text color?
Let's set the color to light blue. One of the light blues you have.
Okay. So we'll grab, say, that one.
Yeah, that's fine. That should work. If this doesn't work, sometimes this trips me up, but we'll figure it out.
And then we can go back to the page and we'll refresh that. And then if we inspect it.
All right, let's go up to social real quick.
Oh, sorry.
Yep,
yeah, social class.
Go to color. Click on that color swatch. So this I don't think this might not work. The color property. Not that one.
Oh, sorry, color.
Yep.
Color, not background.
The swatch.
No
okay, so this is what we're going to do.
Available.
Let's go back to the browser or the code. We're going to keep those colors, but we're not going to put them on social. Go to put a style and then do the body. We're going to style the body and use that color green. And then do another style. Let's do H1, H2, and H3. And we'll use the blue.
All right.
All right, now let's go into the markup and just add an H1 and H2 and H3, whatever you want.
Oh, that's a lot. I thought it would just put one.
If you do Lorem, if you do like Lorem 10, that'll just put out 10 10 words, I think. If you do
this'll-
lorem 10 and then hit tab.
Let's see. There we go.
Yeah.
Give it just a little bit of text there, and then
Sweet.
now we've got
Perfect.
elements
All right,
on the
now
screen.
inspect that H1. Click on the color, swatch. Now you'll see right there,
Contrast.
it comes up as contrast 3.88, and you're passing.
Oops. I guess clicking on it gives you more.
Click the
details
drop down. Now here you'll see AA is 3.0. We're at a contrast of 3.88, so we're above that, so we're passing. AAA is 4.5. Now these are the current color contrast ratio, color thresholds that we want to hit. And this came out in versions, I think one of the 50 versions of Chrome when DevTools shipped. So this will let you know whether or not you're passing AA or AAA when it comes to color contrast. Now AAA would be very difficult to hit. You want to strive for AA. The cool thing is if you go up to the palette above, you're going to see two white lines. And what those two white lines indicate, they indicate the AA level, conformance level, and they indicate the AAA conformance level. So when you move that little circle around, you can see in real time what the contrast ratio is and whether or not you're passing AA or AAA. This is a good way to test your colors before you go to production.
So I have to get below this
Yeah,
second
you have to get below that 4.5 threshold in order to pass AAA.
Interesting. I like that. That's really cool. I like that it's real-time feedback too.
Mm-hmm.
That it's doing this live as you scroll with your cursor
to
let you know.
And the catch about it is it has to be a text element. So like we saw when we just did everything in social, it didn't work. It didn't throw the contrast information in there. You have to be applying those colors to H1 through H6 or paragraph, text elements in order to get the contrast information.
Yeah, we've got some excitement from chat. They didn't know about this either. So Trent's like, that's very cool. I didn't know this existed either.
Yeah, I love this. I love this tool. It was a game changer in the DevTools for Chrome for sure. So, but if you ever want to test out your colors or your color schemes, just grab a few colors and swap them. I mean, there's other tools out there to do this. You don't need to use the DevTools. There's a tool by Leah Veru called Contrast Ratio, and you can put in two different colors and flip them back and forth and see whether or not they pass. But if you're working directly in the browser, this is a good tool to use if you're using Chrome.
Are you familiar with the accessibility tab here?
A little bit. I haven't used it much, but a little bit.
Yeah, this looks like something I need to look more into as well. I didn't notice this was here until we just started talking and got into the DevTools.
Yep. So this will show you the accessibility tree. It'll show you ARIA attributes, and it'll show you computed properties and different stuff like that. So it'll tell you if there's an ARIA label on it, if there isn't an ARIA label. How I'm pretty sure it's in here too. Is that what it'll sound like to a screen reader, if it does have voice. So yeah, it's really, really cool if you're doing a lot of accessibility work and you want to check out the accessibility tree.
Very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of HTML that I feel like people either just don't know is there, they don't use a lot, maybe they don't know exactly what the usage is for it, so they don't use it. So you mentioned main and section, and there's another one that you mentioned, but I didn't get it quite on the page yet. But there's aside. There's another meaningful tag.
Yep.
So this is like not your absolute main content, but I think on my blog there's a decent example of what this might look like. So my little sidebar over here might be an aside. It's not the main meat of the page, but it is kind of either meta information or something that's not directly related to what's on the main part of the page.
Correct.
This is a good spot to put your additional information like this. I have a link to my Twitch show and podcasts and things. Let me just check myself even. It's been a while since I created this, and it
I
looks
see a lot of divs there, buddy. I
yeah,
see a lot of divs there.
it's been a long time since I've created the markup for this, so there is some serious divitis going on. There is a section. I've got a section and a main.
You have a main? That's good. That's good.
I have a main. That's pretty good.
You have a header.
Let's see. I have a header. I have a nav.
Yeah, look, you're on your way.
The worst, right?
You're doing a good job.
I got baby steps going here, but
you're doing a good job.
I need to improve this. Let's see if I learned anything with the links here. Oh, that's really bad. So, yeah, that needs to get fixed. This is hidden, completely hidden. So nobody with a screen reader can click on my Twitter link because it just doesn't even know it's there. So there's a lot of improvement that needs to happen here, which is why I started working on this, and I need to finish rewriting this page. But yeah, this would have made a good aside section. So we've got, I think this is a section. This should be an aside. It is not. But the upper part of the page looked like it was doing pretty good. We had, nav for the nav bar, not too bad there. The icons, on the other hand, complete train wreck. I need to fix those.
Does the top navigation have focus? Because that's another huge thing that we see out there, is that there's a lot of times, I can't say a lot of times, but there are times when developers remove the focus or the hover because it looks ugly according to their design team or their marketing team or stakeholders. That's one thing you don't. Is that
what you're talking about there?
Yep. That's the one thing you do not do is remove focus. Never do a focus outline of 0 or a focus outline of none, unless you plan on putting something back in that maybe matches branding or something like that. Or if, like, let's say you have a reset, like Eric Meyer's reset specifically, he removes the focus, but he explicitly says in there to reset the focus outline after you use the reset, because you want to make sure that your user can focus to all the focusable elements within your experience.
Yeah. There's a good tip from Marcus, voice programmer too. There's maybe that's not what I thought it was. Shortcut keys. They hide the shortcut keys as well. I was thinking of the navigation skip. You see navigation skip sometimes too.
Yeah, skip links.
So it doesn't keep rereading the navigation over and over and over again every time something on the page changes. That could get quite obnoxious too. Great. There's some other ones too that you don't quite see often enough, I think. Definition list is one of them. So this one is has a definition title and then a definition value. So if you have something that has a consistent, maybe it's a documentation site, there's glossary terms. So it's kind of like, this is your term, and then this is your definition.
Yeah, another one that you
fat finger the keyboard.
You don't see a whole lot, unless maybe you do, and I'm just not paying attention, is address.
Oh,
address is a fun one.
Yeah. So if you have, let's see, and this is literally like an address, right?
Yep.
Like if you're giving off a location, and there's also tel. Is that not one?
That's one. It's tricky.
Yeah, there's one for telephone that will highlight on a mobile phone, I think, to give you.
I think the way you use the telephone one, you use tel as an attribute in an anchor link.
That wrong?
So, like, I just built a website for a buddy of mine, and he has that. So it's an anchor tag with an href, tel with the telephone number.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'll light it up on mobile. These are all things that can help. That works on inputs as well. If you're doing a form and you have input, type equals telephone, TEL. So if you're on a mobile device, it will bring up the keypad like you're going to dial a phone number, so you can type that in easier.
That makes the user experience so much more better. I can't tell you how many times I've opened up a form on my device, my mobile device, expecting the input for a telephone number to bring up the number pad, and it pulls up the QWERTY keyboard. It's like, oh, come on, we can do better than this.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to help with this. There is email as well. That's another one that is underused for input.
Yeah.
So it'll bring up like the @ symbol in the keypad, and some OSs will put like gmail.com and some of the commonly used email sites. So these are all like super helpful too. Not necessarily accessibility, but definitely user experience improvements. I'm trying to think if there's any more like.
There's an article. You don't see article a whole lot. Article's another one. And personally, I mean, in my opinion, I say in my opinion a lot, but article section aside, I feel they can all be used interchangeably, but they all do have their own semantic, meanings behind them.
I mean, this might be especially good if you have a blog or like a docs site where it's typically not like a web app situation, but more a you're giving semantic meaning to something that somebody is going to read top to bottom. Yeah, article is definitely a good one for those two scenarios. I'm trying to think, man. I know there's way more. Like HTML goes so deep. Small is another one. Oh, yeah. So that's a really good point. Small. So this is another one of those like do-don't type situations, right? So small has semantic meaning. What's a good thing to compare that to? Small.
Ooh, small.
So what you don't want to do is this.
Yeah. I was going to say just styling a class to be small.
Yeah. You don't want to necessarily do that. Because that, again, doesn't tell the person with the screen reader anything particular about this text, where this does.
Right.
I wanted to kind of compare it to an H tag, but it's not really the same semantic meaning as an H tag either. You might want to put this in where it's like a disclaimer or something maybe that's not
disclaimer, asterisk, a footnote, something like that. That is, yeah, you got it.
Yeah, like I'm less important than like the main content of the the paragraph you just read or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where all the legal stuff goes that nobody reads. The EULAs, those sort of things.
Those clauses.
Yeah, Marcus. I don't know if Marcus is trolling or.
that's
Although I've
trolling.
seen this, I have seen this where you have a header and then there's like some like it probably should be like a subheader.
Yeah.
But instead they throw it in a small just to give it that different look and feel. That again, like if it's giving it different meaning, it should be a tag. But if it's just there for visual flair, then you don't want to use small, right? If it's less important than the rest of the stuff on the screen, use small. But if it's just small for
for small sake,
or because you're making it fancy looking, for some kind of graphic design thing, then putting a smaller class on it might be,
that'd be the way to go.
Maybe the font is different and it's a script font and it gives it a little bit of a different flair than yeah. But what you don't want to do, and Marcus put a good example in there, is take this and stick it in an H1 that just kind of Bucks convention. Like you're saying, this is important. It's a header, but this part of it's not important, even though it's still part of the header. It's kind of awkward.
Yep.
Can't think of a real good use for that, except for what I just said. And if it's an artistic thing, then it should be something like a span.
Yep. And then put your styling on it.
Right?
Yep.
Which I am guilty of. Like this, I will do this. I'll mix and match fonts and things. And,
I do it too, because it's all about the aesthetic. Like I've built, sites, or even like my portfolio, where like it's my first name and my last name, but I want my first name to be like the first name and last name is gonna be in an H1, but I want my first name to look different than my last name, whether it's color or font or size. So I'll use a span with that class.
Yeah. But I have seen that in the wild that Marcus pointed out, like the small within the heading. Like I've actually seen that, and it's very awkward. You're like, why did they choose to do that? Yeah, I've rewritten pages that somebody had no idea what the H tags stood for, and they used them just for pure decoration purposes. So there were H tags thrown all over the place where they just didn't belong. I mean, these are like very, very like rookie mistakes. And sometimes you see these where I think the situation I had was this was content that was put into a sort of content management system. So they were kind of locked, they weren't web developers. They were given a tool they probably shouldn't have had access to create content. And they, had no idea what they were doing. And they were just trying to make it look, look the way they wanted it to look. So they, instead of using bold, they were throwing H tags on things. It was a complete disaster. At no real fault of their own. They were put in a situation they probably shouldn't have been in. But I had to take all of that and move it over to another system. And I was like, just clawing my eyes out, trying to figure out what it was that they really intended to do, because these even though it wasn't semantic as in main and article, like H1s and smalls and stuff do have semantic meaning, and they were just misusing them in every context imaginable.
Yeah, a problem I've seen out there with some of the CMSs, especially like larger enterprise content management systems, is when you're using like rich text editor on the back end for putting in content, etc. That rich text editor is going to generate a lot of non-semantic deprecated markup that somehow still works. But if you were to go through the code and be like, ooh, what is this? But it's not because the person who did it, they didn't do it on purpose. They're using the tool that was given to them in the back end of the CMS.
Oh, we almost forgot the kind of opposite of header here. There's also footer. That's another good one. You put that at the bottom of your page, and that way the screen reader knows. Let's see. I don't really have much of a footer on here. I just got a couple things in a copyright. But usually, let's see. For example, our Telerik page has a big footer with lots of extra information, links and phone numbers and brand information, that sort of thing. That all belongs in that footer tag. That can all help with screen readers and assistive tech.
Yep, and each one of those sections will be a section with a list item, unordered list. So all semantic stuff.
There's another one that I've seen kind of just developers in general kind of shy away from in recent years. And there's still actually some pretty good uses for it. So if you're in a form tag, you can create forum groups and legends and things. And there's actually some extra stuff that you can get out of these extra regions that you can add to a form. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head how to write this correctly. Field set. That's what I was trying to think of. Field set. You don't really see field set often enough, I don't think.
Yeah, that's one of the. There's so many things that make up a form, and some things you can use and some things you don't have to use. But field set's a big one.
Yeah. So the benefit here is, let's see if I can get a couple of these on the page. If you have a field set like this, you have a logical grouping, and you see these logical groupings a lot, like in divs are used instead of field set. So you might have a form with, this is my address, and the other one's like my personal information, stuff like that. And you could group those together with a field set, and that is something that the browser already like natively understands. So you can see it boxed those in just without any additional CSS styling. It knew there was some kind of logical grouping there. And then what is really cool is me hitting the wrong button and opening Visual Studio. If you disable a field set, like so, that should disable that entire field set. Look at that. It just disabled all of those boxes in one stroke. So those are still very handy and not used often enough. You don't see those always taken advantage of.
It's
we
one
got
of
a
those
raid
things.
too, by the way. So raid. I don't have my tool open. Who did the raid come from? Who's raiding us? I'm streaming from StreamYard, so I didn't see the raid come through Twitch, so I don't have any notification of who that was that just raided us. Any heads up, chat room folks?
425 show, Microsoft developer.
Oh, awesome. All right. Microsoft
Sweet.
developer and 425. It's the Microsoft folks on those shows. So
Nice.
I think they syndicate. So I think it's the same show, just syndicated on 2 channels, which I do sometimes here on Code It Live. Yes. So thank you so much for the raid. We will repay that sometime soon. I like the raid mechanics of Twitch. It's always very nice to kind of hand off to other folks in the community and pass your viewers off to new people that they can discover. So much appreciated on the raid there.
Yeah, once I get my office set up in my new place, I'm going to start streaming again.
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial. I know we're sidebarring here, but I think you'll find you've done some of it already, and you're doing streaming now. But I think what you'd find is it helps with coming up with new presentation ideas for conferences. The chat room is interactive, which you don't get in other presentation scenarios, which is really nice. People can ask questions live. Gives you a lot of good ideas to run with. I enjoy it. Speaking of questions, if anybody has any questions before we start packing up here, I know we just got rated, but I think we've gone past the scheduled hour. We can go longer if we need to, but if you have questions, now would probably be a good time to ask them.
Ask away.
And if there's anything else you wanted to cover, Chris, let me know. If there's anything here. You said you've got a keynote coming up. Do you want to kind of share what events you're doing?
Yeah, let me pull it up. The event is Star East Virtual. Put it in the chat. And I'm giving a talk on accessibility and ROI. My first keynote ever, which I'm super stoked on doing. So,
let's see if I got that right. Star East Virtual Conference. Very cool.
Yep, and if you scroll down, are the speakers. I might be on the front. There we go. We're on that page, and then on the front as well.
Very nice.
There's me. Woohoo!
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about accessibility, tune into the keynote on that one. That's coming up April 29th. So the end of the month here.
Yep.
It's not too much farther away, my friend.
I know. I know, dude.
Very nice.
So, and for anybody that sees the term A11Y, like in the title of this keynote, A11Y is a pneumonym for accessibility. So it's where you take the first letter, you take the last letter, you count the letters in between, and then you get your pneumonym. So there's 11 letters in between the word accessibility between the A and Y. So you see this a lot of the time in the wild with internationalization, which is I18N, localization, which is L10N, Kubernetes, K8S. Those terms specifically are called pneumonyms. It's just a more shortened way to say the word, to type the word.
Yeah, Trent, if you have a question about the Blazor stream, go ahead and ask. If it's too in-depth, we'll just defer it for the Blazor show, but at least I'll have a heads up to what you've got in mind. Maybe we can bring it up either on the other show or answer it here.
I would love if DevReach was in person.
Yeah, I don't know what international travel situations are going to be like by the time DevReach comes up, so...
I want to go back to Bulgaria.
Oh,
it was such
man.
a fun. It was a blast.
It's fantastic over there.
Oh, that was such a blast.
Great people that we work with. All the folks on our dev teams and product teams and stuff are just absolutely fantastic here at Progress. So it's a shame that we haven't been able to get out and visit them all year. Oh, do a show on implementing OAuth 2. That's a really good question. I don't know if I'll cover that on my show specifically, but I can look into some friends that have done this either already or are planning to. I think I might know some places where you can get that info. So thanks for the heads up. I'll look into that one for you, Trent, and next show I'll try to answer that for you. I'm not the authentication guru that I hoped I would be, but
if you so for Trent, if you look up, I'll just put their Twitch in here. James Q Quick, he works at Auth0. He is a developer advocate. I would definitely check out his stream.
Yeah, I think now that they're one company. Heather Downing might have some info on that too.
Heather too, yeah. So check out Heather's as well.
Let's see if she's got. She was doing some Blazor videos.
I know that Okta has their own channel. Yeah.
Yeah. So Okta and OAuth, or Auth0, sorry, Auth0 have teamed up. So check her info out. You might find your answer there, but it doesn't mean I can't do it on the show. It just won't be soon, but I might be able to grab one of these two folks and have them on my channel to talk about that. So we've got here, we'll share James's as well. So we've got, there's Heather, there's James, and then we'll grab Heather or James sometime and see if we can get some auth going in and on my channel. And also Layla Codes It. She was doing some auth with GitHub the other day. So I know she's
Layla's
streaming
awesome.
on the topic as well. Oh my gosh, her show's absolutely fantastic. Like all the 3D effects and stuff that she pulls off on that thing are just so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And such a good personality to host like a channel like that too. It's an absolute blast watching her go on. All right. I think it's time that maybe we set up a raid, Chris, unless Sarah, do you know if there's any shows coming up on our channel after us, or are we safe to go ahead and raid out somewhere? Trying to think if who we can raid if we have anybody available here. Let me here so I can focus this a little bit better. Let me take my screen off and.
Do you follow the Primogen, Ed?
I do not. Who is that?
They are a developer at Netflix, and they stream. They do a lot of their work in Vim, But I was watching him stream last night, and it was a trip. It was a trip. So I don't know if that's an option, but the only thing that's coming up across my Twitch right now is Primogen and then our stream.
Let's see here. How do you spell it?
ThePrimeagen.
There we go. I've got it queued up. All right, cool. So we're queued up to raid Primogen. I just wanted to say thank you all in the chat for joining us. If you're on Facebook, you won't see the raid portion of this. That's a Twitch thing, so sorry about that. But thank you very much, Chris DeMars, for coming on and schooling me in the chat room on accessibility and HTML semantic markup.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's always good to review that stuff and make sure we're up on the latest and greatest so we can, yeah, it's like the very first step of being accessible, right?
Yeah. Always making sure that it's the forefront of your experience. It's a top priority.
Where can we find you online, Chris?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Salt and Burnham, SaltnBurnem. You can see it down here in my name right there. Salt and Burnham, give me a follow. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter, DM me, follow. Yeah, that's mostly, I hang out on Twitter a lot, so that's where I'm at.
Me too, probably too much. So
yeah.
If you have any questions after the show, hit us up on Twitter. If you didn't get a chance to get Chris's info, just ping me online and I'll get you connected with him. So thanks again. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you're, let me throw the Webworthy Hackathon info back out there just in case. I know we had a raid and stuff, so people might not know that is going on. But we'll give that one more shout out, and I'll pop that into chat as well. But we are doing a hackathon for the next several weeks. This is the Webworthy App Challenge. So this is a hack for good. And we're using all of the DevCraft Progress DevCraft products with this as well. So it's a chance to get familiar with the tools, win some prizes, maybe help some folks, who knows. But it should be a lot of fun nevertheless. So make sure you sign up for that and check it out. There's 41 days left until app submission begins. So you've got plenty of time. So thanks again, everybody. And we'll go ahead and raid you all out. All right, we're queuing up. Everybody say hello to the Primogen for us. And tune in to Code It Live all week for streams about Blazor and React and VR and all sorts of fun stuff. Chris, take care, my friend. We'll see you soon.
See ya.